Hello guys, I'm Matt Stolbof and welcome to the Coast to Coach College Basketball Show. Today we're going to look back on an absolutely crazy week of college basketball with major storylines happening both on and off the court. But first we tip things off with a recap of the Territorial Cup. I'm here with Erik and Alec Henden, and Alec, U of A winning last night at Wells Fargo Arena 77-70, and Ayton was just Ayton, wasn't he?
Yeah, Ayton was Ayton, and there was no answer ASU could offer with only two 6'8" power forwards. Ayton is 7'1". He's dynamic. He should be the number one overall pick in the NBA draft this year, and he did his job. He got the sweep against the rival for Arizona, and they did a great job basically just making sure they fed him the ball in the second half. It's kind of quiet in the first half, but overall, in the second half, he was the most dominating force on the basketball court yesterday.
And just free throws in general, we'll go to you, Erik, on this one. Free throws, U of A, 21 for 27. ASU, only 7 for 12. And a lot of those free throws were big free throws, could either tie the game or giving them the lead.
That's right. I mean, it was 77-70 Arizona. This game was in reach for the Sun Devils, and you have to think, if they had hit all of their free throws, that's 5 more points for them. 7 of 12 from the line is absolutely unacceptable. I mean, I get it. You're not going to the line as much. Maybe you're going to blame the Pac-12 refs. But when you're there, the only person you have to blame for not hitting free throws is yourself. And then, I mean, free throws wasn't the only stat that was incriminating against the Sun Devils, as U of A out-rebounded them 44-28. Obviously, that's due to guys like Dusan Ristich and DeAndre Ayton against Romello White and Daquan Lake. But 44-28 is crazy because at halftime, they were very close in rebounding. And then in the second half, I mean, Ayton just, again, like you said, was Ayton. And it's crazy because when you think about that and the rebounding, ASU outscored U of A 40-30 for points in the paint.
This is crazy. Yeah, I mean, watching that game, it was incredible. I mean, Ayton was doing his thing, but Romello White handled the ball pretty well. Daquan did way better than I thought, defensively especially. And they had a good game plan, was doubling Ayton in the paint and the short corners. Really any big man they did to Ristich too.
The key though for Arizona though is they got a very efficient night from Alonzo Trier, which they haven't always gotten the rest of the season. That definitely was a big impact for the Wildcats. That helped them along the way. Their older players stepped up, and they had the superstar.
Another problem was foul trouble for
Exactly.
Arizona State. Mickey Mitchell had 4 early in the second half, and I believe Romello had 4 with about 6 or 7 minutes left. But moving on, just Erik, Shannon Evans had an absolute, not a great game. 5 points, 2 for 12. Just what did you see from last night that wasn't normal?
Well, I mean, like Alex said, for U of A, their key guys stepped up. Their veterans stepped up. For ASU, it was almost the exact opposite with Shannon Evans. 5 points, that's it for Shannon Evans against your rival in U of A. That's just not going to be enough. And you have to think, if you're Shannon Evans, you're kicking yourself. Absolutely kicking yourself, because it's a 7-point game. If you're Trey Holder, you're kicking yourself because you missed the free throws. If you're Shannon Evans, you only scored 5 points. That's not enough for a senior guard who has been on fire at some points this season, but just doesn't seem to be able to come out against the rival of U of A and have a good game. But you look at the third senior of guard, you look at Cody Justice. Cody Justice had himself a game, 19 points, 7 of 14 from the field, 4 of 9 from 3. He was really the only player that stepped up and played above what he was supposed to do against this U of A team. Trey Holder may have scored more points, but way less efficient than Cody Justice. And Cody Justice was the guy who kind of kicked off that run as U of A led early, and then ASU started coming back when Cody Justice started hitting threes. So you have to think, if Shannon Evans was able to at least have half of a better night than what he was at, and Trey Holder hit his free throws, this could have been a win for the Sun Devils.
And then just finally, another loss for ASU in the Pac-12. They've, been bouncing on and off with rankings. Are you worried about this team? Do you think this is a tournament team, or you think they're okay?
I think they're a tournament team. It's what they do when they get into the tournament. That's the problem. What we've seen over the season is that ASU, when they're on their best, when they're on fire, can beat anybody. They can beat Kansas at Kansas. They can beat whoever. They can play U of A coach. They can play U of A close. But at their worst, they can lose to some pretty bad teams. So I feel like ASU will get into the tournament, and it matters which side of ASU you're getting is going to determine how deep they go. Because I can see them making a deep run or being a first-round exit.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll move on now. I mean, within the last 7 days, it feels like every top team has lost. Villanova has lost to Providence and St. John's. St. John's was a team that didn't win a single game in the Big East before they played Villanova. Purdue lost to Ohio State and Wisconsin. And then Ohio State lost to
Penn State
yesterday. Virginia lost to Virginia Tech. Cincinnati lost to Michigan, and they lost to Houston last night. I mean, it's absolutely crazy right now. At the moment, ESPN Joe Lunardi's #1 seats right now are Virginia, Xavier, Auburn, and Villanova. Do you see any of those 4 teams making a big impact on the tournament this year?
I feel like Villanova can, because they've been there before. I think the one team I'm very confused about is Auburn. Auburn really only has a few quality wins this season, the best one coming over Tennessee, who's had a good season for basketball, but losses to Alabama and A&M, who's a ranked team. I don't understand why Auburn is a #1 seed, but I can also see it because, I mean, everybody's been losing this year. Duke, Michigan State lost to Ohio State, got blown out. I think it's just so crazy. You can look at a team like Auburn, and they're considered a #1 seed right now.
Alec, any thoughts?
I think Xavier's the team to beat of those four. I think they have the senior leadership. They have a great coach in Chris Mack. They've been there before. They had the surprising Elite 8 run last year when they were only an 11 seed. Now that they have Blewett and JP McCura, they've both had phenomenal seasons. And I think Xavier's the most talented. I think they have the most leadership. And I think they're kind of slept on in the Big East because Villanova had their great run to start the season. But now they're one of the top 4 seeds, and that just shows you how good the Big East has been this year. And I definitely think they have a good chance to make a deep run in the tournament.
Are you guys worried about Purdue? Purdue, they've lost a few. You know, they were as high as the 2 seed at one point, a #2 team in the country. And they've had 2 tough losses. Seems like teams are starting to figure out Haas a little bit. Are you worried about them at all?
I would say no, because if you go in the tournament with like 3 really good players that are actually older, especially in Haas, who's a senior, and you go into the tournament with that kind of confidence, I feel like you can get it at that point and sort of put it all together. And we've seen at their best, they could beat almost anybody in the NCAA. And yeah, they've had a few losses, but who hasn't this season? So I feel like Isaac Haas and Carson Edwards for Purdue are going to be able to step it up in the tournament for them. And I could see them making a deep run, whether they're a #1 seed or not, coming into the tournament.
I trust Purdue as well. I think if I'm a Purdue fan, I take a step back and realize, okay, you'd rather lose now than lose in
Right.
March. So get these out of your system. Take your bad games. It's conference season. Everybody beats each other up. It's just the nature of the beast in college basketball. And still realize you have a good team and a very good shot to at least get to a Final Four.
Yeah, I would look at teams that aren't projected for the #1 seed right now, the Dukes, the Michigan States of the world, for those who are going to be making the deep run, just because simply they have the best players. Marvin Bagley, you look at even U of A. DeAndre Ayton is going to eat during the postseason because that's just what he does. And then you can look at Michigan State. Jaren Jackson Jr. is having a very good season. And of course, Miles Bridges is still their star who came back this season, and he's wanting to do well at Michigan State and go deep in that postseason. So despite those losses early, when you get to the tournament, those who have the best players more than likely will be the ones making those deep runs.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to our final segment, and this is a very important segment, some that will possibly affect college basketball for a long time. Pete Thamel of Yahoo Sports has reported that the FBI has begun investigations on multiple college basketball programs, and they have found, quote, a voluminous amount of material. One source has said that, quote, when this all comes out, Hall of Fame coaches should be scared. Lottery picks won't be eligible to play, and almost half of the 16 teams the NCAA showed on its initial NCAA tournament show this weekend should worry about their appearance being vacated. Now, this seems like a very serious issue. We all know earlier in the season, a couple programs like Louisville, University of Arizona were caught with recruiting violations by the FBI, and now obviously it sounds like it's a lot worse than that. How big is this impact for college basketball? Erik, we'll start with you.
Oh, it's absolutely huge. I mean, this isn't just the NCAA investigating. This is the FBI. We saw earlier, like, this is serious. If it was just the NCAA, we know that they've been corrupt for a long time. Everybody knows people pay recruits. Everybody, like, nobody's like, oh no, they all just go to college for fun. No, you get paid, you go to the best schools. And now, with the FBI investigating, this isn't just like the Richmond Spiders. These are your Dukes, your Michigan States of the world. These are the teams that are going to be going down from this. They said Hall of Fame coaches. This should have a significant impact on the future of college basketball and how college basketball is played and recruited for the rest of time. We could see a major shift in this sport and a major sport for the first time in a very long time. This is very serious news for the NCAA.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, I would say, definitely. When you just think of 8 of the top 16 teams in this year's projected tournament, that's huge for the game of college basketball. I saw kind of a quoted from a source in that same article. He said, like, next year we could look at a 2 seed, like Tennessee Chattanooga. I think that might be a little extreme, but I'm definitely curious to see what the reports are and see if there's anything that comes of this, because it'd be hard to think that this will just blow over after this season.
And, you know, with these reports come out within the next year or so, if it does affect the programs that we think it affects, these top tier programs, can we see a shift in players potentially going into Europe in China and those leagues, and we'll see more popularity in those type of leagues than in college basketball?
It's hard to say right now because we don't know exactly how this is going to change it. Whether, like they said, Hall of Fame coaches, that doesn't mean, what is that, 1 or 2? Or does that mean a bunch? Or does that mean a lot of top programs? We have to see, and what people have to remember, this is the very beginning of it. We are only scratching the surface on this. The reports and some of the court cases aren't until April of 2019. So we have a long time. The winner of this year's tournament, their win can be vacated afterwards because they could be part of this. And you can say, going off to different leagues, you can look maybe the LeVar Ball League.
Yeah, maybe, I was gonna
stuff
say
like
LeVar
that.
Ball's league could gain some popularity.
I would say I wouldn't know if it would be such a drastic difference. It really depends on, like, are we talking all of the top 25 teams had these scandals? Or are we talking like 2 or 3? Because if we lose 2 or 3 teams, college basketball will still be prevalent. There's a lot more than just 2 or 3 teams in college basketball. But if we're talking a lot of teams, like a majority of top 25 teams, even go back to like Louisville's and U of A's, Duke's, Michigan State's, you can see a lot of guys being like, look, I don't want to get involved with that because the players will get punished too, and they could be going to play overseas. So it's really hard to tell right now, and we have to get more information. But as of right now, if you're like listening to these sources that are deep into this investigation, this is going to be some very serious news, and this is going to change a lot in the very near future for college basketball.
All right, well, that will close things off today for us. Tune in next week when we continue to talk about the latest in the college basketball world. For Erik and Alec Henden, I'm Stolbof, and we'll see you guys later.